Chapter 6. It rained during the night. In the morning it was still coming down, darkening the lake to black and blurring the trees. The air smelled like wet earth and old leaves. A squirrel perched on the deck's railing, his droopy tail wet and pitiful. A few sparrows hopped out about here and there, looking almost as wretched as a squirrel. After breakfast, Dulcie handed out umbrellas and led Emma and me down the steps to the dock. Flinging open the door of the small shingled building, she said, "My studio isn't it marvelous?" Large skylights let in the gray light of the rainy day. Blank canvases leaned against the walls, primed and ready to paint. A long table ran along the back wall, holding paints and brushes, stacks of drawing paper, and books. Above it, built-in shelves bulged with more art supplies and books. A wood stove and a couch draped with a faded paisley print bedspread occupied one corner, along with a couple of well-worn easy chairs and the potter's wheel Dulcie used to make bowls, mugs, and platters. I breathed in the smell of paint, turpentine, and linseed oil, mingled with lake water and damp mossy woods. "It's perfect," I said. "I want one just like it." Dulcie smiled and pointed to an easel in the middle of the studio. "What do you think of my latest?" I stared at the large oil washed in shades of blues, greens, and grays, splashed with flashes of yellow and white. "It makes me think of water." Dulcie grinned. "It's the first of a series based on the lake and its moods." She turned to the window and stared at the water, dull and gray in the rain. "I want to capture the power in water and rocks and trees, capture it as it captures me." She stood silently for a few moments, toying with a long strand of curly hair. Almost as an afterthought, she added, "Maybe I'll manage to free myself." I wasn't sure what she meant or even if she were talking to me, so I simply nodded. "Mommy, can I show Allie my pictures?" Emma asked. Without looking at either of us, Dulcie said, "Of course, your folder's on the table." Emma carefully untied the strings holding her folder close and began spreading pictures on the table. "I made these in New York," she explained, "and the moving truck brought them here, just like it brought Mommy's paintings." I looked at the array of rainbows, birds, suns, and flowers, painted in bright reds, yellows, greens, and blues. In some, people with huge smiling faces and long stick arms and legs floated just above the ground. She printed her name in big sloppy letters across the top of every picture. "These are great, Emma. I love the bright colors and all the happy people." "I'm going to be an artist when I grow up," Emma said, "just like Mommy." "Me too. We'll all three be artists together." Emma clapped her hands. "And this will be where we paint, all three of us, and we'll live together in the cottage, and we won't be lonely." Dulcie had finally left the window and was now mixing paints on her palette. A new canvas faced her as she lifted her brush to make the first splash of color. She turned to Emma and me. "Would you girls like to paint too?" Emma grabbed a box of tempera paints and handed it to me. "You open the jars," she said, "and I'll get the paper and the brushes." Soon all three of us were absorbed in painting. Rain pelted the skylights. The lake slapped the shore. The wind blew. Dulcie's CD player was loaded with classical music. Bach and Mozart, or was it Haydn? Well, no matter who it was, the music was perfect, and so was the rain and the wind and the sound of the little waves. I watched Dulcie wash her canvas with thin layers of color in grayish shades of blue and purple and green. A rainy day at the lake. I tried doing the same thing with the tempera paint, but my brush was too wet. The colors ran and pooled and wrinkled the paper. "Look, Allie!" Emma held up a painting as blotchy and runny as mine. Its colors mainly dark blues and blacks with a blob of white. "Is that the lake on a rainy day?" I asked. Emma looked at her painting. "Yes, but it's got something else." She pointed to the white blob. "This is a skeleton ghost. See? Here's its head." Dulcie took the picture and looked at it intently. "What gave you the idea to paint a ghost in the water?" Emma shrugged. "It's something I dream about." Her voice sank to a whisper. "Bones in the water. Bones that come out and chase me." The studio was so quiet I could hear raindrops splash against the skylights. A cold draft slipped under the door and wrapped around my ankles. I shivered. Emma hugged Dulcie. "Don't be mad, Mommy." Dulcie stared at Emma. "Why would I be mad?" Emma stroked Dulcie's sleeve. I don't know." Dulcie laid the picture on a stack of paper on the table and picked Emma up. "How about painting a rainbow and a smiling sun and a flower?" she asked. "Can you do that for me?" "I already did lots of those, Mommy." Emma picked up her pictures and sorted through them. "1 rainbow, 2 rainbows, 3 rainbows," she said. "And here's you and me sitting under a rainbow, and here's 1 flower, 2 flowers, 4, 5, 7 flowers." Dulcie looked at them. "Very nice," she said. "Much better than bones in the lake, don't you think?" "I guess." Emma went to the window and looked out at the lake. "I wish the rain would go away." "Me too," I joined her and frowned at the dark clouds over the dark water. In the glass I saw Dulcie's reflection behind me. She was sitting at the table, staring at the ghost picture. The expression on her face made me uneasy. That afternoon I read to Emma until she fell asleep. While she was napping, Dulcie came in from the studio and made a pot of tea for us. We sat at the kitchen table, warm and snug and dry. Rain gurgled in the downspouts, pouring from the eaves and ran down the window panes in large drops. "Emma has an amazing imagination," I said. "Sometimes I think she spends too much time alone," Dulcie said slowly. "I wonder if it's good for her." "I'm an only child, too," I said. "It might be nice to have a brother or sister, but I'm perfectly happy the way things are." Except for Mom, I thought. If only she was like you, never depressed, no headaches, full of energy, going places, doing things. I stopped myself, guilt-stricken. Dulcie opened a tin of fancy cookies and offered me one. They were thin and crisp, smelled lovely, and tasted even better. Given the opportunity, I could have eaten every one and not left a crumb. "In New York, we live in a neighborhood with lots of artists, but not many kids," Dulcie went on, talking to me as if I were her age, her equal, not a little kid. "I've kept her at home because I can't afford preschool." "She'll be in kindergarten this fall, won't she?" Dulcie nodded. "Maybe she'll make friends then." "Of course she will." I took another cookie. "And this summer she'll have me to play with." Dulcie smiled and patted my hand. "I'm so glad Claire decided to let you come." "She almost didn't." Dulcie shrugged. "Your mom worries too much." "Has she always been like she is now?" "Pretty much. Our mom overprotected her, said she was sensitive, delicate, sickly." "Was she?" "I don't know. I was just a kid myself." Dulcie peered into her teacup as if the answer might be there. "Every time we had a fight, it was my fault. I got blamed for everything." She looked at me. "Sometimes I think Claire played it up to get attention." Shocked by Dulcie's unkind words, I leapt to my mom's defense. "She has horrible migraines and she's always feeling bad. Grandmother was probably right about her." I know. Believe me, I know." With that, Dulcie gathered the empty teacups and carried them to the sink. "I have to get back to the studio. Please fix Emma a snack when she wakes up. Cookies and juice, not too much though, or she won't want dinner." I jumped up and followed Dulcie to the door. "Are you mad at me? Did I say the wrong thing?" She gave me a quick hug. "I had no business criticizing your mom. We're just so different, you know. It's hard for us to get along, always has been." I watched Dulcie leave the cottage and pause at the top of the steps. She stood there for a few minutes, staring out across the lake. The rain had stopped, but the water was still dark under the gray sky. The wind tugged at her hair, pulling curly strands from her ponytail. She looked small against the churning clouds. I went back to reading To Kill a Mockingbird. After a while, Emma came into the kitchen, still sleepy from her nap. I closed my book and fixed her a glass of juice and a couple of cookies. Outside, the rain started falling again, and the wind blew. I began to worry Mom had been right about the weather. That night, Emma's screams woke me from my own dream about tea and the girls in the canoe. I sat straight up in bed, clutching the covers. Downstairs, Dulcie's footsteps hurried to Emma's room. I ran to the top of the stairs just in time to see her open Emma's door. "Emma, what's wrong?" she asked. "The bones came out of the lake!" Emma cried. "They're going to get me!" "It's okay, sweetie, it's okay." Dulcie's voice shook as if Emma's dream had frightened her too. "There aren't any bones in the lake. You were dreaming." I leaned over the railing. "Is she all right?" In the hall below, Dulcie hugged Emma tight. "She had a bad dream, a nightmare." Emma looked up at me, still frightened. "The bones came out," she sobbed. "The bones came out." For a moment, I had a scary feeling that someone else was in the cottage, unseen, watching, waiting. I looked behind me into the shadowy corners of my room. No one was there, but I couldn't get rid of the feeling or the goosebumps on my arms. Dulcie smiled up at me. "Everything's all right, Allie. Go back to bed. You look cold." As Dulcie carried Emma to her room, I wished I could run down the steps and squeeze into the big double bed with them. But that would have been way too babyish. After Dulcie's door closed, I went to my room and snuggled under great-grandmother's quilt, shivering with cold. In my head, Emma's words repeated themselves, like a song you can't get out of your mind. "The bones came out. The bones came out. The bones came out." Without wanting to, I pictured skeletons wading out of the dark water and creeping toward the house, their bony arms outstretched. Outside, trees rustled in the breeze, and sticks snapped as if crushed under bony feet. Inside, the floors and steps creaked as if those same bony feet were tiptoeing through the house, upstairs and down, searching the rooms. Holding Rufus tight, I curled into a ball and willed myself to sleep, but Emma's little voice went on saying, "The bones came out. The bones came out." Chapter 7. The next morning the lake was gray under heavy clouds. The pines were blurred by mist, but the rain had stopped, and the air smelled clean and fresh. It was too chilly for swimming, but not too cold for a walk along the shore. Emma and I each put on a sweatshirt and jeans and strolled by the lake. The sandy beach turned to stones not long after we passed the boathouse. I was glad I'd taken Dulcie's advice and worn sandals. If I'd gone barefoot, I'd have been hobbling along like an old lady. While Emma ran ahead, I gathered stones. They were smooth and round in shades of pale green, pink, and gray and black. I had an idea I might do something artistic with them. Put them in ceramic bowls, maybe, and add driftwood and seagull feathers. I could make the bowls myself and sell my arrangements in gift shops. I'd learned how to throw clay on Dulcie's pottery wheel. I'd mix glazes. I'd use the kiln behind the studio. I was thinking so hard I almost walked right past Emma. To my surprise, she was standing beside a stranger, a girl who appeared to be 9 or 10 years old, but small for her age. Her hair was white blonde, her eyes were the same gray as the lake, and her skin was a deep tan. Despite the chilly weather, she wore a faded blue bathing suit. "This is Sissy," Emma said. "I just met her, but she wants to be friends." Sissy looked at me slantwise, as if she were sizing me up. Would I be good to know? Was I nice? Was I bossy? I gave her the same look. There was something about her I disliked on sight. A sharpness in her eyes. A mean set to her mouth. She was the type who'd lie and get you in trouble. "This is Allie," Emma told Sissy. "She's my cousin, and she's staying here with Mommy and me. Mommy's an artist, so Allie takes care of me while Mommy paints. She's not a babysitter because I'm not a baby." Sissy continued to stare at me. "Where's your mother?" she asked. Her voice was too high-pitched to be easy on the ears. "In Maryland," I told her. "Where we live." She didn't want to come. "Why not?" Sissy asked. Something in her voice, a sassiness I didn't like, annoyed me. "I don't know what business it is of yours." It was a healthy thing to say, rude even, but somehow it was her fault I'd said it. Sissy shrugged and her shoulder blades jutted out like wings. "I was just wondering, since when is that a crime?" Emma laughed uncertainly, not sure if Sissy was joking or not. Aunt Claire doesn't like the lake. That's why she didn't come. Is she scared of water or something? A breeze from the lake blew Sissy's hair in her face, and she smoothed it behind her ears. Emma glanced at me as if she thought I'd answer. I think so, she said uncertainly. But I'm not. I'm not either. Sissy looked at me. I bet she's scared, just like her mother. I stopped trying to ignore her. Back home, I'm on the swim team. I've won more trophies than anybody in my class. Do you think I care? Sissy turned to Emma. Let's build castles. Emma dropped to her knees beside Sissy, and the two of them began heaping up stones, blonde heads together as if they'd been friends forever. I hated to admit it, but I felt left out. Emma was my cousin, my friend, and here she was trying to impress a bratty stranger. Are your parents renting a cottage around here? I asked Sissy, hoping she'd say yes, we're leaving tomorrow. You'll never see me again. Without looking up from her pile of stones, she said, I live here. Where? Emma asked. Sissy pointed. That way. Emma peered down the shore. I don't see a house. I walked a long way, Sissy said with a shrug. Can we come and see you and play at your house sometime? Sissy shrugged again. Maybe. We have sand at our beach, Emma went on. We can build good castles there. Want to come home with us? Not today. Sissy stood up and kicked her pile of stones down it tumbled. Why'd you do that? It wasn't any good. Sissy scooped up a handful of stones and watched them run through her fingers. Clickety-click. I have to go. See you later. She turned to leave, but Emma ran in front of her, blocking her way. Will you be here tomorrow, Sissy? Maybe. Dodging Emma, she walked away, her skinny back arrow straight, her skinny arms swinging, her skinny legs zipping along beside the water. Her silky hair floated around her head, lifted by the breeze. She didn't look back, not once. Soon, the mist swallowed her up. When Sissy was out of sight, Emma took my hand. Do you think she likes me? Everybody likes you. I swung Emma's hand as we walked. Do you like her? Of course, don't you? Not especially. Why not? I don't know. I guess we aren't very copacetic. Copa what? Copacetic. It means getting along with somebody. I was pleased with myself for remembering one of my favorite vocabulary words. Well, Sissy's very copacetic with me. Emma broke away and ran along the edge of the water, singing a Sesame Street song. I followed slowly, thinking about the very uncopacetic Sissy. There was something about her I didn't trust. Maybe it was her way of looking past you, not at you. Maybe it was her way of never quite answering questions. The frown on her face didn't help. It wouldn't hurt to smile once in a while. Come on, Emma called. Catch me. I ran after her and picked her up, pretending I was going to toss her into the lake. She shrieked and giggled and broke away from me again. I let her think she'd escaped and then caught her. It was a game Emma never tired of playing. At lunch, Emma told Dulcie about her new friend. Her name's Sissy. Where does she live? Dulcie asked. Emma shrugged. Around here somewhere. Dulcie looked puzzled. I didn't think anyone lived around here. She said her house was that way. I pointed in what I thought was the right direction. She walked a long way, Emma put in, and all she was wearing was a bathing suit. On a day like this? Brr. Dulcie wrapped her sweater tighter around her skinny body and sipped her coffee. Did Sissy tell you her last name? Emma and I shook our heads. When you see her again, ask her. Maybe I knew her family from when I was a kid. She probably lives up the road in Webster's Cove. Can we go there and see her? Emma asked. Without knowing her last name, how would you find her house? I asked Emma, glad to think of a reason for not seeing Sissy. We could walk around and look for her. Maybe she'd be playing in her yard or something. Webster's Cove is a small place, but I doubt you'll find Sissy that way. Dulcie gathered up the dishes and carried them to the sink. I'm going to the studio now. Be sure and take your nap, Emma. Otherwise you'll be a crab tonight. Emma held up her hands like little claws. Watch out, I'll pinch you, Mommy. Much to Emma's disappointment, we didn't see Sissy the next day or the day after or the day after that. I didn't mind a bit. The clouds had vanished and the sun shone. It was perfect weather for swimming, but Emma said the water was too cold. While I practiced my backstroke, she sat on the sand and made castles. Like Sissy, she kicked them down before we left the beach. No good, she said in a good imitation of her so-called friend. At the end of the week, Emma suggested walking to Webster's Cove. Mommy said Sissy might live there, remember? Maybe we'll see her and we can ask her to come with us and have lunch. It's a long way, I said. If you get tired, I'm not carrying you. I won't get tired. I'm big now. It was about a 40-minute walk, but Emma didn't complain once. She trotted along beside me, talking about Sissy, Sissy, Sissy. What was her favorite color? Did she like chocolate or vanilla ice cream? Does she have any brothers or sisters? What TV show did she like best? Sesame Street or Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? Was she afraid of the dark? Did she have bad dreams? Did she like pizza with extra cheese? Did she have a pet? A cat? A dog? And a guinea pig? What did she eat for breakfast? Rice Krispies, Cheerios, Captain Crunch? Emma had so many questions. I almost felt sorry for Sissy. Webster's Cove was bigger than Dulcie remembered. Cars without a state license plates jammed the narrow streets. People mobbed a little boardwalk running along the edge of the sand. Beach umbrellas tipped this way and that, almost hiding the water. The air smelled of popcorn and suntan lotion and French fries. Kids ran in and out of the lake, shouting and splashing while their parents watched from folding chairs and blankets. Emma tugged my arm. I don't see Sissy. It would be hard to find anybody under 7 feet tall in this crowd. Taking her hand, I led her down the boardwalk and into Smoochie's ice cream shop. Maybe the chocolate wouldn't be as good as Olson's, but it would be just as cold and sweet. I pulled a $5 bill out of my pocket. What would you like? I asked Emma. A soda? Ice cream? Candy? Can I have a soda and ice cream? I checked the price board. I had enough for 2 small cones and 2 small sodas. What flavor do you want? Emma pressed her nose against the glass and studied the choices. After several changes of mind, she settled for chocolate and a ginger ale. I picked mint chocolate chip and a root beer. While we were waiting, Emma peered up at the teenage girl scooping the ice cream. A tag on her polo shirt said her name was Erin. Do you know a girl named Sissy? Emma asked. Without looking up, Erin said, Can't say I do. She's 10 going on 11 and she has long blonde hair and she's pretty. Emma went on. Skinny and mean-eyed, I felt like adding. Not very nice and not really pretty. Erin smiled at Emma. Sorry, but I don't know her. Maybe your family's here on vacation. She lives here, Emma persisted, all year round. Well, I live here all year too, but I don't know anybody named Sissy. Are you sure she lives in the cove? No, I put in. It was just a guess. Erin handed us our cones and drinks. There are loads of cottages scattered around the lake, she said. She could live anywhere. I think it's near our cottage, Emma said. Erin rang up the sale and took my money. While she made change, she asked, Where do you live? Gold Cottage down on the point. She stared at me. You're kidding! Nobody's lived there for ages, not since... She frowned and handed me my change. Since what? I asked. Huh? You said nobody's lived there since, and then you stopped. I licked my ice cream. What were you going to say? Erin shrugged and brushed a few stray strands of sun-streaked hair behind her ear. Without looking at me, she said, Since about 30 years ago, the people who owned it came every summer, but then one year they didn't come back. The cottage has just sat there empty all these years. Do you mean the Thorntons? Thorntons? I asked her. Erin nodded. I think that was their name. Well, they're back now, I told her. At least my Aunt Dulcie is. Really? Erin stared at me as if she didn't believe me. Dulcie Thornton's here? That's my mommy's name, Emma said. She's an artist. Do you know her? Of course not. How old do you think I am? Erin leaned over the counter until she was face to face with Emma. But my mom knew Dulcie when they were kids. They used to play together all the time. I think she had a little sister, too. Yes, I said. Claire. That's my mother. Erin studied Emma and me as if she was memorizing every detail of our appearance. Our clothes, our hair, our faces, even how many freckles we had. Her scrutiny made me uncomfortable. Did she think we were strange? Was there something weird about us? I'll tell Mom that Dulcie's back, she said at last. She'll be really interested. Struck by a sudden thought, I took a deep breath. What's your mother's name? I was hoping she'd say Tony or Terry or some other name that started with a T, but no luck. Janine, Erin said. Janine Donaldson, but her maiden name was Reynolds. I know she'll want to see Dulcie. She still talks about her and Claire and what... Just then a man herded a couple of cross, sunburned children into the shop. 2 vanilla ice cream cones, please, he said. Small, and 1 large Diet Sprite. I want vanilla, the boy wailed. Sorry, I want strawberry, the boy wailed. You said vanilla. No, strawberry, I want strawberry. Make that 1 vanilla and 1 strawberry, the man said, and an extra large Diet Sprite for me. Can we go now? Emma tugged at my t-shirt. Maybe Sissy's waiting at home for us. I waved goodbye to Erin, and we began the long trudge home. The further we walked, the hotter we got. The sun beat down on our heads and shoulders, and our clothes stuck to us. Even waiting in the lake didn't cool us off. Before we'd gone halfway, Emma asked me to carry her. You promised you'd walk, I reminded her. I'm tired, Emma said, close to tears. Okay, but just a little way. I picked her up and carried her piggyback style. Thank goodness you're a little skinny old thing, I told her. I'm just a bag of bones, Emma whispered into my ear. After that, she was so quiet, I suspected she'd fallen asleep. Worn out from the walk, I was pretty tired myself. When we were almost home, I thought I saw Sissy watching us from a stone jetty poking out into the lake. I didn't wave. Neither did she. She just stood there as still as a heron waiting for a fish. She was very far away, small in the distance. I could have been mistaken.